at 4.
President Donald Trump threatening to take over D.C. once again. His focus this time, juvenile crime.
Clouds have been stubborn as we've gone through the middle of the week. We'll let you know if they could possibly break up heading into Thursday and Friday.
A 30-year-old cold case cracked.
I never lost hope. I always knew that we'll come to this day.
How detectives tracked down the suspect that killed a D.C. police officer.
Also, graffiti found in Arlington. Police now searching for who could be responsible for vandalizing parts of the city.
We're stretching your dollar with Grocery Price Check. What items in your basket will be most impacted by tariffs?
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
And thank you for joining us for DC News Now at 4. I'm Mark Hall.
And I'm Tosin Fakile. We begin by taking a live look at the White House this afternoon. President Donald Trump threatening to take over D.C. again, this time over juvenile crime. The president posting on Truth Social yesterday after a former DOJ staffer was attacked by a group of teens Sunday morning.
And DC News Now, Marielle Carbone is live on Swan Street Northwest where the attack happened. Marielle, we know that they're both now in custody, at least 2 juveniles.
Yeah, Mark and Tosin, police that were actually patrolling that night saw it, intervened, and arrested 2 teens on the spot out here. Now, despite that, the president still criticizing local law enforcement. It was here on Swan Street Northwest that a former DOJ employee, 19-year-old Edward Korestein, was attacked by a group of teens in an attempted carjacking early Sunday morning. Police intervening and arresting 2 15-year-olds from Maryland.
A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs.
The attack sparking a renewed push by Trump to take over D.C. The president posting on Truth Social that local youths are not afraid of law enforcement, and the law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14.
And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize. And
he also posted this photo showing the victim beaten and bloody. We're blurring it because of the graphic content.
I'm sorry that that person experienced violence, but to say in response to that we should treat 14-year-olds as adults is really, really inappropriate.
Kaya Chatterjee is with Free DC and says teens need intervention, not more severe punishment.
Our children are not pawns in whatever game is being played by this administration.
Under the law, the president has the power to deploy the National Guard and temporarily take over the D.C. Police Department. But it requires an act of Congress to revoke home rule.
But it's not a law that you can just get rid of because you say you get rid of it.
According to the D.C. Office of the Attorney General, which prosecutes youth crime, more than 90% of homicides and attempted homicides and 87% of carjacking cases were prosecuted in 2024. And Attorney General Brian Schwab not available for an interview today. He also can't comment on specific cases like this one, but he did tell us that when MPD brings sufficient evidence of a juvenile crime, that his office prosecutes fairly and hands out the appropriate consequences. Reporting live in Northwest D.C., I'm Marielle Carbone, DC News Now.
All right, Marielle, thank you for that report. D.C. police report violent crime is down 26% compared to this time last year. They say assault with a dangerous weapon dropped nearly 20% and murders are down 13%. The report shows property crime is down only 5%, but not every crime is seeing a decrease. Motor vehicle theft stats, those are almost identical to this time last year. Nationally, though, crime, they say, is trending downwards. The FBI says there was a 15% decline in murders in 2024. Violent incidents dropped 4.5% last year. Property crime fell 8% from 2023. There was also a slight drop in hate crimes.
Let's head over to meteorologist Damon Madsen with a first look at our forecast.
Damon, it's been a cloudy day again, but again, less humidity, which is the good news, in my opinion.
We got this weather on repeat right now, it seems like. Yeah, it's pretty much the same setup as we had back on Tuesday, and it's that give and take. Yeah, the cloudy skies, they're a little bit tough. We'd like to see some sunshine, especially because it was so cloudy on Tuesday, but we're just not going to get that here today as this cloud deck remains locked in. But like Tosin was talking about, because of the clouds, temperatures have stayed down, the humidity has been manageable and bearable, so all in all, it's made for a pretty pleasant August afternoon, especially considering how hot and humid we typically are this time of year. Now, aside from that, we're not really seeing much else. There has been a little bit of rainfall out there across southern Maryland. That's where we've had any sort of rain showers. A couple are trying to nudge in here across northern Prince George's County as well, but that's the exception. Most of us are continuing to stay rainfall free as we head into the evening time, and that's pretty much how it's going to remain as we wrap up the day today. Now, some of those clouds are likely to break up a bit as we head into the overnight hours, but for the rest of the evening, cloudy, cool, and dry. That'll be the trend as we wrap up this Wednesday. Now, as we get into the back half of the week, are we expecting these clouds to break up even more? And will that mean some warmth starts to return to the mix? We'll have a full look at your forecast coming up here in just a bit.
All right, Damon, we'll check in with you soon. Thank you. We are following developing news out of Georgia. We're learning an Army sergeant opened fire at Fort Stewart, causing the base to go on lockdown this afternoon. Officials say he is in custody. 5 soldiers were shot and rushed to a local hospital. Right now, there's no word on their conditions. The lockdown lasted about an hour. The details remain limited as Army investigators piece together what happened. Coming up in our next half hour, DC News Now's Hannah Brandt gives us a full report.
Well, 1 person is dead, 2 others in the hospital after a shooting in Southeast overnight. It happened around 11:30 on U Street near Florida Avenue. 1 man died on the scene. Another man and a woman were taken to the hospital. Anyone with information is asked to contact police.
I'll take a look at these images. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue say 2 women were involved in a car crash early this morning and left 1 person trapped in her vehicle. It happened at about 6. This was along Colesville Road and Southwood Avenue in Silver Spring. Both women were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
An update this afternoon. A researcher at Georgetown University has reached a partial settlement with the Trump administration. But Arkan Suri is able to return to work after being arrested back in March. The Hill reports the administration was targeting pro-Palestinian foreign students and faculty with ties to Hamas. Suri has a student and exchange visitor information system from the Department of Homeland Security. Now, this agreement restores his status along with his children. The Trump administration agreed to not terminate his status unless newly discovered and independent legal ground is found.
All right, take a look at this graffiti. It is popping up all over Arlington. Arlington County Police receiving reports at 6 locations in the county. They're currently searching for who's responsible for the vandalism. Arlington County Department of Environmental Services says they've replaced about 60 signs across the county since January 1st because of graffiti. Over a third of those, they say, have been in the Tara Leeway Heights neighborhood. Zoning issues are coming up in Montgomery County. A measure passed in July creates zoning measures that allow for more residential buildings. Now, that includes duplexes, townhouses, and apartment buildings. County Executive Mark Elrich talked about the law today, saying that existing plans already cater to growing the county. And moving forward with the More Housing Now package means many families will be displaced.
No actual requirements for affordable housing built in, and no concern that almost half the residents that could be displaced in this are actually renters, largely minority, who will lose their homes through this process. It's kind of amazing that we still have to talk about that, but we still do have to talk about that.
Elrich also says existing plans currently cater to more than 85,000 units. That zoning measure as part of the More Housing Now package is set to go into law November 1st. 30 years after the murder of a D.C. police officer, a Maryland man now in custody charged in her killing.
Yeah, Dina Campbell was shot inside of her Montgomery County apartment in 1995.
At DC News Now's Daniel Hamburg joining us live at Maryland District Court in Rockville. Daniel, the person in custody actually was charged decades ago.
That's right, Tosin and Mark. Kenneth Wonsum was her boyfriend at the time, and he was charged in her death in 1995, but for whatever reason, the charges were dropped. Now prosecutors believe they have enough evidence to convict him. There's a sense of relief for friends and family of Dina Campbell, who was killed September 16th, 1995.
Justice has been served for Dina. I've been waiting for this for years.
Her then boyfriend, now 65-year-old Kenneth Wonsum, has been charged with her death. He now goes by Amir Jalil Ali.
I never lost hope. I always knew that we'll come to this day.
Campbell was a 4-year veteran of the Metropolitan Police Department when she was killed with what police believe was her own service weapon. That early morning, Wonsum called 911 and said he just came home to find her shot dead. At the time, police said gunshot wounds weren't seen until careful examination, and he had a ripped shirt with bloodstains. But for whatever reason, the charges were dropped. Over the last year, detectives dug into the case.
There also were additional interviews that were done that maybe weren't done initially, and additional information that we learned from coworkers and friends.
That new information included one neighbor who heard 5 gunshots at 3:20 a.m., and another neighbor heard a man yelling, "I told you not to do this to me." That was around the time when Wonsum told police he left to go to the store to get things for Campbell. It was then learned he left a message from a payphone asking if she needed anything. Coworkers told police she was planning to leave Wonsum, and while at a strip club 3 days prior, Wonsum told one undercover D.C. police officer he was going to kill her.
While this arrest won't erase the pain of losing Dina, we hope that it does bring some resolution and sense of peace to everyone involved.
Now, Wonsum was supposed to appear in court today for his bond hearing. That has been postponed until Wednesday. In Rockville, Daniel Hamburg, DC News Now.